So, to start off this deep dive, I want you to picture the scene. It's February 15th, 1988,
Okay.
and we're in a classroom at Caltech.
The California Institute of Technology.
Right, exactly. And Richard Feynman, who is arguably the most, magnetic Nobel Prize winning physicist of the 20th century, has just passed away.
A huge loss for the scientific community.
Massive. But on his blackboard, there's this one single sentence left behind. It's just written there in chalk.
Let me guess, it wasn't a physics equation.
It wasn't. It said, "What I cannot create, I do not understand."
Wow. Yeah, that really is the ultimate mic drop for a guy like Feynman.
Right. And that's what we're digging into today. This isn't just a biography of a famous scientist.
Though his life is definitely wild enough for one.
Oh, for sure. We've got stories coming up about safe cracking and playing bongos.
Naturally.
But this deep dive is really an exploration of that specific motto on the blackboard. We're looking at how it serves as a literal blueprint for true learning.
Which is our main mission here today. We really want to help you, the listener, move from passive memorization.
Which is how most of us just barely survived high school.
Exactly. Move from that rote learning into active mastery. Because true mastery is creation.
And we're going to unpack exactly what that means. We'll go over the Feynman technique, we'll hit those crazy anecdotes, and we'll look at modern applications too, from synthetic biology to business management.
It's going to be a really fun ride. But I do want to do a quick tone check here.
Sure, go for it.
Well, it's super exciting to unpack how a genius physicist's brain works. The core of this is really about critical thinking.
Right.
It's about avoiding that illusion of competence where you think you know something just because you memorize the vocabulary.
Yeah, that illusion is so dangerous. So let's unpack this philosophy. Build to know. What did he actually mean by create?
Well, he definitely didn't mean it in the artistic sense. He wasn't talking about painting a landscape.
Like macaroni art or something?
Right, no. He meant the ability to reconstruct a concept completely from scratch, mentally or physically.
Okay, so if I say, "I understand an electron,"
then you shouldn't just be reciting a textbook definition. You should be able to derive its behavior. You should be able to simulate it in your mind.
it's like if you really understand it, you can build it from the ground up.
Exactly. Creative reconstruction.
Which actually reminds me of this really surprising anecdote from the sources. So he won the Nobel Prize, which, according to the source timeline here, was awarded in 1951.
Right.
And someone asked him about it, and he famously quipped, "Hell, if I could explain it to the average person, it wouldn't have been worth the Nobel Prize."
Which is so ironic, isn't it?
It sounds like a total contradiction. Like,
Yeah.
his whole thing is, I have to create it to understand it, but then he's saying his Nobel-winning work is too hard to explain.
It does sound contradictory, but it's actually just his personal litmus test. He believed that if he had to simplify a theory too much, it became trivial.
Yeah.
But at the exact same time, he fully believed that if you couldn't break a complex idea down to its absolute basic fundamental parts, you didn't actually know it.
So the complexity was almost like a sign of unfinished work in his own head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The ultimate test of mastery is that creative reconstruction. If you can't build it back up using simple blocks, you're faking it.
That is a harsh reality check.
It is.
So let's get into the methodology then, the practical side of this. The sources, specifically a guide from Farnham Street, distill this whole philosophy down into a 4-step process called the Feynman Technique.
And it is brilliantly simple.
Step 1 is choose and map. You basically start with a blank piece of paper.
It is a completely blank page.
Yep, and you write down everything you know about a topic, and the sources note this immediately reveals your knowledge gaps.
Oh, it's brutal. You think you know how a toaster works until you actually have to draw the wiring?
Exactly. You get 2 sentences in and just freeze. So once you hit that wall, you move to step 2, which is teach it simply.
This is the core of it.
The rule is you have to teach it to a hypothetical 12-year-old. No jargon allowed whatsoever.
Because jargon is just a mask for not understanding.
Right. The source actually gives a great example using compound interest.
Oh, I love this one.
So instead of using a phrase like exponential growth,
Which a 12-year-old wouldn't care about at all.
right, instead of saying that, you explain it like planting fruit trees. The trees grow fruit, and instead of eating that fruit, you take the seeds out and plant new trees.
And then those trees grow fruit.
Exactly. So your wealth is essentially a forest that's planting itself.
See, that is a perfectly constructed mental model. But what happens if you stumble while you're trying to explain the trees.
Well, that's where step 3 comes in. Review and simplify.
Right? You don't just push past the confusion. You don't just
You
guess.
stop, you go all the way back to the source material, and you fill that specific gap.
You surgical strike the exact thing you didn't understand.
Yes. And then finally, step 4 is iterate and test. You verify by creating. So you build a model, or you actually teach it to someone else without looking at your notes.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because the goal of those 4 steps isn't just to pass a test on a Friday afternoon.
Right.
The goal is to internalize the logic so deeply that you can literally manipulate it in your sleep.
It becomes a part of how you see the world.
Exactly.
And Feynman lived this out in, every aspect of his life. Let's talk about the textbooks at Caltech in the early 1960s.
Oh, the legendary Feynman lectures on physics.
Yeah, he was super frustrated with the dry, standard physics texts they were using. He felt they were just a list of formulas.
Pure rote memorization.
So he decided to just create his own. He basically asked, how would I teach this if the students knew absolutely nothing?
And by doing that, he reconstructed the entirety of fundamental physics from scratch.
Just off the top of his head.
Pretty much. Which is why those books are still considered masterpieces today.
Okay, but it wasn't just physics. I want to talk about the Manhattan Project in 1942.
The safe cracking.
Yes. He was working on the atomic bomb, he gets bored, and he decides to teach himself how to pick the locks on the high-security cabinet.
Which, is perfectly normal behavior for a physicist with top-secret clearance.
Totally normal. But the way he did it is the key here.
Right, he didn't just memorize a list of lock-picking tricks.
No, he built mental models of the lock's actual mechanics.
He treated those combination locks exactly like physics equations. They were just systems to be deconstructed. He visualized the pins, the tumblers, the tension.
He practically built the lock in his mind before he ever touched the dial.
Exactly.
And he did the same thing with languages. There's that story from his book, Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman. He needed to learn Portuguese because he was going to lecture in Brazil.
Right.
Did he buy a standard textbook? No. He learned it in 6 weeks by creating his own grammar rules and his own vocabulary lists.
He built the language from the ground up.
It's wild. But I know you wanted to bring in a more serious note here regarding something he called cargo cult science.
Yeah, this is from a famous commencement address he gave in 1974. It's a really crucial warning.
Tell us about it.
So he talked about these islanders in the South Seas after World War II. During the war, planes were constantly landing on their islands, bringing cargo.
Right, supplies, food, everything.
But when the war ended, the planes obviously stopped. So the islanders wanted the cargo to come back. They built runways out of wood. They made bamboo radio antennas. They even had a guy sit in a wooden hut with wooden headphones on.
Just waiting for the planes.
Exactly. They perfectly mimicked the form of an airport, hoping the planes would land. But they didn't understand the substance of why the planes were there in the first place.
And Feynman applied this to science.
Yes. He warned scientists against just mimicking the form of research without deeply understanding the underlying variables. If you just copy-paste an experiment without understanding the why, you're doing cargo cult science.
You're just building a wooden runway.
Precisely. Don't just copy-paste knowledge. Understand the mechanics.
Man, that connects so perfectly to modern applications. I mean, we're seeing this build-to-know philosophy right now in cutting-edge fields.
Oh, absolutely. Think about synthetic biology.
The 2010 event.
Right. Researchers at the J. Craig Venter Institute actually built the very first synthetic cell.
Like from scratch.
From chemical scratch. But the coolest detail is what they put inside it. They literally encoded a message into the cell's genome.
A watermark in the DNA.
Yes. And the message was a variation of Feynman's quote, "What I cannot build, I cannot understand."
That gives me chills.
It's incredible, right?
Yeah.
They were proving they understood cellular life by literally building it.
And you see this in tech and business, too. The sources point out how this applies to the engineering culture at places like Google.
Oh, for sure. If you're an engineer there, you can't just rely on prepackaged code. You have to be able to write down the entire algorithm yourself to prove you truly understand how it scales.
Which brings up a really relatable workplace scenario from the sources. It's this deep dive simulation with a project manager named Sophia and an engineer named Daniel.
Ah, the database crash.
Yes, so the database crashes. Sophia's frantic. She wants to know what went wrong. Now, Daniel could just show her the error logs, right?
Which would mean absolutely nothing to her.
Exactly. So instead, Daniel creates an analogy. He tells her, imagine the database is a library. The server is the librarian. The crash happened because thousands of people rushed the desk trying to check out books at the exact same millisecond.
The librarian just gets completely overwhelmed.
Right. And the insight here is that by building that analogy to explain it to Sophia, Daniel actually diagnosed the real bottleneck.
He realized the problem wasn't the books.
It was the librarian, the server capacity.
That is the magic of the Feynman technique. By teaching it, you clarify your own understanding.
We see it with students all the time, too. The sources mention these two students, Amelia and Lucas.
Oh, studying for biology.
Yeah. Amelia was struggling with the Michaelis-Menten formula for enzyme kinetics.
Which is a nightmare to memorize.
Totally. So instead of rote memorization, she drew the enzymes as little Pac-Man characters eating pellets.
Huh, that's brilliant.
Right. That cartoon creation helped her master the actual mechanics of the formula way better than just staring at the textbook.
Well, let's actually synthesize the difference between those two approaches. The sources give us a really clear comparison table.
Rote learning versus the Feynman method.
Right, so rote learning is fundamentally passive. It's superficial, it's just for short-term retention, and it's usually super jargon heavy.
You memorize it for the test on Friday and you forget it by Monday.
Exactly. But the Feynman method is active, it requires deep understanding, it leads to long-term mastery, and it relies on simple, plain language.
It's the difference between having the knowledge of the name of a thing
Versus having the knowledge of the thing itself.
Yes. Okay, I want to try something fun. Let's do a little interactive mini exercise right now with you, the listener.
Ooh, I like this, putting him on the spot.
We're going to test this technique live with a concept that is incredibly simple. Ready? How do you maintain your balance on a bicycle?
Everyone thinks they know this.
Everyone. So, listener, explain it right now, in your head or out loud, to a child. And the rule is, you cannot say the word gyroscope yet.
Give him a second to think.
Okay, so you're riding, you start to tip over. Why doesn't the bike just fall?
Most people are probably struggling to explain why turning the handlebars actually prevents the fall.
Because if you just say, I lean the other way, you'll actually crash.
Exactly. If you can't explain that leaning into the turn forces the wheels back under your center of gravity,
Kind of like balancing a broom pole in the palm of your hand.
then you have a gap in your knowledge. You know how to ride a bike, but you don't understand the physics of the bike.
And that's okay, because the solution is just step 3. You go look it up.
You find out about center of mass and steering geometry.
And then step 4, you try to explain it again.
That gap is a feature, not a bug. It tells you exactly what you need to learn.
I love that. So let's recap what we've covered today. Memorizing is easy, sure, but creating is true understanding.
Whether it's a quantum equation, or a database, or just a bicycle.
Exactly. So I want to leave you with a final provocative thought.
Go ahead.
What is one thing you genuinely think you know perfectly? Maybe it's your daily job, maybe it's a weekend hobby, or maybe it's that political stance you always argue about.
I think that's a good one.
Now ask yourself, could you build a working model of that concept from scratch and explain it to a 12-year-old?
If you can't, do you really know it?
Exactly. So your call to action today is to pick one fuzzy concept in your life and just Feynman it.
Draw it, build it, teach it.
Just get a blank piece of paper and see what happens. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Remember, you only truly know what you can create.